Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday to you. And by everyone, I mean Libby, or anyone else who's watching this later. I am your host. I'm Kevin Williams, your Kevinly Father. I am fully boosted Kevinly Father at this point. Got my vaccines for both the COVID and the flu on Friday afternoon. It's now Sunday morning. I feel great. No side effects whatsoever. Producer Joanna, she felt a little nauseated that evening, but was fine. She could have felt nauseated because she spent the afternoon with me. Makes sense. That's a common side effect. And then Kevinly daughter went and got boosted as well. In California, everybody can get boosted. So regardless of what it says on the appointments, when you make the appointments on Walgreens, CVS, or wherever, there are sites that will boost everybody. Unfortunately, the apps are a little bit behind. So every adult over 18, which is, I guess, every adult. So that's redundant and repetitive and redundant. Everybody can get boosted in California if you live in California, because California is one of the smart states. There are at least 19 really stupid states. Those are the states that originally rejected getting the Obamacare money that their citizens were paying for. But that's another story. And if you look at those 19 states and anything bad that happens in America, there's a direct correlation. You've seen that map, be it COVID or Obamacare or any other thing that goes wrong in America. It's those 19 states peppered throughout the South and the Midwest. Throw in Utah a little bit. Josh, good to see you here. Thanks for dropping by. We'll see you later. We'll get going as soon as Jim Jordan announced through the House Judiciary Committee, GOP Judiciary Committee. He tweets sometimes. I believe it's him. I think it's him or his cronies that are tweeting through that account and basically just hyping Jim Jordan. And when Jim Jordan tweets something, seconds later, that House GOP Judiciary Committee tweet account will then retweet that. Morning, Stephanie. Good morning, Chris. Chris got his booster yesterday, and other than a little sore, doing great today. Yeah, my arm was a little sore yesterday. I mean, just minor, but I also got the flu shot at the same time. My arm is sore every time I get the flu shot. I don't even count that as a side effect, because it's not really a side effect. A sore arm is a direct result of a shot. That's how it works. A needle, a piece of metal, is being jammed into your body. It's supposed to hurt. Of course it's sore. I don't count that as a side effect. It's a direct result. So we're just waiting. We're waiting on Maria Bartiromonov. Here we go. So she's going to talk to Jim Jordan. Let's get going with that. Just a quickie this morning.
By my son Hunter, when I was trying to get the COP26, what's going on over in Europe on the environment together. It makes a lot of difference. All empathy is looking at you and understanding what you're worried about.
Okay.
Well, that was a stunning admission from Joe Biden on Wednesday of this week that his embattled son Hunter Biden advised him ahead of the climate summit.
Advised him? He talked to Hunter. Stunning that he talked to someone in his family about an issue of the day. Really the ultimate issue for the human race and the survival of. And Hunter's going to be around, theoretically, quite a bit longer than Joe Biden. Shocking. Shocking that any man would talk with his child or grandchildren about the future of the planet. Why would you do that, Joe? What's in it for you, big man? He's the big guy. As opposed to the former guy, because Joe Biden won.
Scotland.
Stunning that he would have a conversation. They're such snowflakes. What? He talked to a member of his family about something? I am shocked and stunned. Wow.
Where the U.S. signed a surprise deal with a serial polluter, China, to cut emissions, according to a September 2020 Senate report.
Oh no! Someone signed a deal with someone else to cut emissions.
By Senators Ron Johnson and
Good morning, Marcy.
Chuck Grassley. Hunter is still entangled in Chinese state-run companies after receiving tens of millions of dollars from both Ukrainian and Chinese.
Oh, okay, but this was just Joe saying I talked with Hunter about some climate change things. He wasn't talking about embroiling in companies from China that make broilers and other parts for stoves. Wow.
Companies.
By the way, you guys weren't here yet, but like 4 minutes ago, she was talking with some guy I didn't even recognize about Hunter Biden and how bad everything is. Why isn't Hunter Biden being charged? And okay, Steve Bannon is being charged for contempt of Congress. That is the best news of the week. Honestly, that is probably the best news we've had in the last 2 years outside of the election and the vaccine. Oh my God. People are responsible for their actions when it comes to the investigations of Congress.
And has major conflicts of interest.
The branch of the government that is in Article 1 of the Constitution, the Congress, they actually have some sort of power in this country to help move democracy forward. Shocking. I am stunned and shocked. Next thing you know, Joe Biden's going to be talking to his kids about stuff.
And yet he is advising Joe Biden on the summit. Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan joins me right now. He's the ranking member on the House.
He's advising Joe Biden on the summit. I had a talk with him, and he's like, Dad, I don't want the planet to be too hot for fish. Wow, that's great advice, son. I'll go talk to the people in Scotland about that.
House Judiciary Committee, as well.
She has problems saying it too. It's hard to say. Judiciary. Let's change that word. Anything to do with judiciary or rural juror or all of that. It's hard.
As the author of the new book, Do What You Said You Would Do. Congressman, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks very much for being here. Your thoughts on Hunter advising Joe going into this summit?
Well, his understanding of the environment is probably on par with his understanding of artwork.
Probably, yeah. So that's thanks for your definitive. Probably. Let's just start every sentence with probably. We don't. This is just an opinion, but okay.
I mean, I don't think Americans get this, and we all know his history.
Yeah, but his artwork is valued by others. That's all art works like that. Something painted by Rembrandt has absolutely zero value outside of burning the wood that the frame is made from. But people place value on it. We live in a faith-based economy anyway. What you think something is worth is what it's worth. That's how it works. That's capitalism, baby. Are people paying way too much for Hunter Biden's art? Yes! Of course. Do people pay way too much for a Rembrandt? Yes! Of course. But it's their money, and they have the freedom to do with it what they please. That is America, baby. It's stupid, but it's America.
He's got conflict of interest on conflict of interest. You know, he took...
What's up with my hair? I don't know. I just got out of bed. Give me a break. I put the... Here. There. Is that better?
Millions from China, Russia, Ukraine, and seemed to, was giving advice on all those issues as well to then Vice President Biden. Now he's giving advice on the environment too.
There's absolutely no evidence of that.
President, I don't get it. I don't think the American people get it.
You don't get a lot of things, Jim, but we understand. Well, 64% of us understand.
Well,
let's just look at the graphic, because the graphics on Maria are great because they're usually wrong. But not only just the opinions, just in general. Remember how they said like 205,000 Americans are dead in Afghanistan? It's not even close. Okay, Hunter Biden's alleged business deals received $5 million. Alleged. There it is right there. In the first sentence. These are alleged. Received $5 million from Chinese oil. It's alleged. Received $83,000 per month to serve on board of Ukrainian energy company. Yeah, okay. So he was a board member. He is a legal advisor. He's a lawyer, by the way. An Ivy League educated lawyer who has sat on other boards of major companies you've heard of, like Amtrak. Own stake in Chinese private equity firm. Maybe. Okay. He's an American. He's allowed to own stakes in companies. Unless those companies are specifically prohibited. Ownership in said companies are specifically prohibited by the American government. But there's no sanctions against BHR, this Chinese equity firm that they're talking about. Received $3.5 million wire transfer from the wife of the former mayor of Moscow. This is alleged. But this is from the Senate Homeland Security Committee. You can see at the very bottom there in the yellow behind me. You can see behind me, right? This is wallpaper, by the way. This place has patterned wallpaper, and it's lovely. I wish you guys try and feel that. I don't know how fast your computers are, but try and reach behind me, and just do a reach around, and rub, just like that, up and down. You can feel that texture. I love that. I love it when you reach around and rub. If you can, through your... I think you can do it on a PC, or if your phone is casting to your television, but I don't think you can do it on a phone. Anyway, anytime you want to reach around and rub behind me here, you go right ahead. Oh, we have a special delivery. What are we doing? Oh, producer Jojo has come into my room and is reaching around. I'll get out of the way if you're going to reach around. Thank you for the reach around, producer Jojo. How does that feel?
Great.
Yeah, I love it. So, thanks for that, producer Jojo. See, this is the kind of access. When you give me a studio, that's what you're able to do. I absolutely. You want to give me a studio, I will allow you to reach around. Let's get back to the show here, folks.
Well, I just wonder if anything's going to come up tomorrow when Joe Biden speaks to Xi Jinping about the origins of COVID-19, given all of this money that has been transferred to Hunter Biden. We know that they were sharing a bank account, so it's pretty much transferred to Joe Biden, I guess. We know that Hunter still has these relationships and this entanglement with the private equity firm. So is there any question that Joe Biden's not bringing up the origins of COVID-19 to CCP?
I mean...
What? Is there any question that Joe Biden is not... Let's go back on that, because I'm really confused. What? Go ahead.
It's pretty much transferred to Joe Biden, I guess. We know that Hunter still has these relationships and this entanglement with the private equity firm. So is there...
No relationships or entanglement. Call them what you want. I have an entanglement with the U.S. Post Office because they bring me my mail. I'm all entangled with them. Entangled.
Is there any question that Joe Biden's not bringing up the origins of COVID-19 to...
Is there any question that Joe Biden is... Well, you're literally asking the question. So I'm not... But people are allowed to ask questions. That's nothing to do with reality. And we don't know. But you can ask questions. These are hypotheticals, but... Am I asking a question? Yes?
CCP?
One question. Am I allowed to ask questions? It's at every meeting.
I mean, I hope he does.
That's my reaction right there. I mean,
frankly, I doubt that he.
They always. She's not good with the satellite delay.
Will. I mean, we now know that American tax dollars went to EcoHealth. EcoHealth was doing gain-of-function research in that lab. We now almost for certain know that the actual virus came from the lab in China.
No, we don't. We now know almost for certain that the actual virus came from... No, it didn't. What we do know is that other experimentations were going on in that lab, that the Chinese have been doing experimentations, that the U.S. funding actually went to finding coronaviruses, not gain-of-function research. That's what we know, that U.S. funding was specifically for those other things. And we also know that no virus that would be able to be linked to the current COVID-19 virus, the Delta variant, or otherwise, any of them, was cataloged in that lab. There is no evidence that chain, that the sequences of that virus that has infected and killed so many people on this planet, no evidence linking that virus with the Chinese lab. There are many, many thousands of coronaviruses, probably millions. But the one we know the genetic sequence of it. That's how we were able to do the vaccine in a weekend. No evidence of that. We have, by the way, there are published DNA. Oh, sorry, not DNA. RNA. Viruses have RNA. There are published, publicly available chains in the reports of the stuff, the viruses that were being experimented on or were being discovered in the Chinese lab. By the way, there's 2 labs. Anybody who says the Chinese lab, they don't know what they're talking about. There are 2 different labs in Wuhan.
In fact, I think Dr. Fauci knew this clear back on January 30th, 2020, when he got the email from Dr. Christian Andersen that says virus looks engineered, virus not consistent with evolutionary theory, which is a fancy way of...
No, that's not what the email said. It said, we need to take a look at this and see if this virus was... We should put together a team to make sure. It did not say the virus looks engineered. It did not say that. We have the email. But if you're really bad at the Englishing, then that's what you would think.
Saying this
is just a prism of filters that these people have with a lack of understanding. Read the sentence twice. We have the emails.
Thing came from a lab, so we've been misled all along. I hope Joe Biden will bring that up because we know what this virus has meant to the world, what it's meant to our country, what it's meant to our civil liberties. So let's hope he does, but frankly, I doubt that he will.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on all of that. Let me bring you back to domestic issues, Congressman, because I have this feeling that there is no regard for taxpayer money at all in this administration. I want to ask you about the infrastructure bill. Before I get there, we're looking at the graphics, this graphic of what's in the infrastructure bill. Joe Biden's expected to sign it into law tomorrow, but your colleagues voted for it. Are they?
Oh, hold on. I want to hear this, but I'm just trying to find that email. I'm reading a Wall Street Journal article. I want to find the actual email to share with you guys so you can understand the language of it. Which, here's an exact quote. They took up only a small percentage of the genome. So this is the quote. One has to look really closely at all the sequences to see that some of the features potentially look engineered. It's possible that some of these are engineered. And then they did it. They looked at it and they said, no, they weren't. Here's what it is. See this word? This is from the email. This is exactly what the email says. I don't have the email in front of me. You guys can look it up if you want to. These are the words. And in brackets, potentially, this virus could potentially have been engineered. We need to look at them. One has to look really closely at all the sequences. You know what we need to do? This is all the email says. You know what we need to do? We have to look really closely at all the sequences to see if they're maybe engineered. That's all it says. It doesn't say the sequences are engineered. No, it's right there. Here, I'll even go closer for you guys, just in case somebody's watching that's one of those snowflakes. Here's a close-up right here. I don't know what that is. Hold on. Right there. This is a quote. This is from the Wall Street Journal, by the way, which is not a bastion of liberalism. One has to look really closely at all the sequences to see that some of the features potentially look engineered. And they looked at them, and then they said, no, actually they weren't. And there's dozens of articles about that because weeks later they came out and said, yeah, no, not engineered. This is Dr. Christian Andersen. Came out and we looked at them. We have teams of people looking at this one. Now, this virus was not engineered. Doesn't look like it.
Are they going to lose committee assignments? Yeah. I mean, where is the accountability?
Okay, what's in the bill? Again, these graphics are always wrong in some way. $110 billion in new funds for roads, bridges, and major projects. God forbid. $65 billion for broadband, for the rural broadband. And who lives in the rural area? Jurors and mostly conservatives. $55 billion for water infrastructure. How dare they? Trump has already said he wanted, with his infrastructure bill that didn't exist, he wanted the sharpest air and the sharpest water. And if this bill is going to provide sharp air, I'm all for it. $21 billion environmental remediation. God forbid. $11 billion in transportation safety programs. How dare they make the transportation safe? $7.5 billion for electric vehicles and EV charging. Why would we want to get off of foreign oil? Why would we want to stop being slaves to the OPEC cabal? I got to use cabal. I love that word. What cabal and compound? Although as much as I appreciate producer Jojo and the unnamed studios, I would really like a compound. Bin Laden had a compound. I would like a compound. If you guys talk to producer Joanna, have her start looking for compounds. She's looking for houses to live in. I want a compound for me. She doesn't have to be that. Maybe I should. You know what? It's time for me to step up and start taking responsibility for my life and get my own compound. If you'd like to help me get my own compound, please become a patron. KevinLeeFather.com. Send me some money on the Cash App. Send PayPal. So a compound, I've got to guess, in the Los Angeles area, a compound's probably upwards of $3 to $5 million. So let's say $5 million, just to be on safe. Now, you don't have to donate $5 million yourself. If just 5 people donate just $1 million, let's keep going with this. But this is scary. I mean, I think they're presenting their case right here. What's in the infrastructure bill? How dare 30 Republicans vote for this bipartisan bill?
Why would your...
Chris Wilson says, my son bought a Tesla. I can't stand Elon, but have to say I love the car. I was in a Tesla yesterday, and they are wonderful vehicles. I was quite happy with it. But yeah, Elon Musk killed people with coronavirus, so I'm torn there. Do I love the cars? Yes. Is he a murderer? Yes.
Colleagues, 13 Republicans vote for this bill when there's not a dime in it for the border wall.
And what's weird about that whole situation is, and I'll tell you why. In California, they said, no, close the factories right now. We're closing factories because this is back at the beginning. Coronavirus is running rampant in California, and we don't have any way of protecting people. We haven't figured this out yet. Let's keep the factories closed for a while. And Elon said, no, I'm opening up my Tesla factory, and 3 of his employees died of coronavirus. Now, can you convict him for murder? No. For manslaughter? No. But he's gotten away with it completely scot-free. Nobody remembers this. People are just running around, oh yeah, no, I think I'll get myself the Y. I really like the look of the Y. I drove it and it's wonderful. Okay, but Elon, the guy in charge, by the way, Elon, in the last couple of days, attacked his co-founder who actually built the Tesla. The engineer behind the Tesla, they no longer have relations apparently. And all these years later, after the guy developed the technology for Tesla, Elon decided he should attack him. And I know people who know the engineer, and apparently it's a wonderful family. I haven't met him myself. I hope to one day. And shake his hand and say, hey, I'm vaccinated, are you? And he'll be like, yeah. And I'll say, maybe we should stop with the whole handshake thing. Like the elbow bump, it's just stupid. How about we just say, hey, how you doing? Good job with the Tesla. I'll buy a Tesla off him. I wish he would start his own company. Come on, we lost Jim? Did we lose Jim? What a shame. Let's see if he comes back.
The wall. They're getting ready to pay people who illegally...
What?
Oh, no.
We jumped ahead a little bit. We were
no
here.
regard for taxpayer money at all in this administration. I want to ask you about the infrastructure bill. Before I get there, we're looking at the graphics of this graphic of what's in the infrastructure bill. Joe Biden's expected to sign it into law tomorrow, but your colleagues voted for it. Are they going to lose committee assignments? I mean, where is the accountability? Why would your colleagues, 13 Republicans, vote for this bill when there's not a dime in it for the border wall?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I wish they...
Yeah, they are now naming and shaming the Republicans who voted for the infrastructure bill, who voted for roads and bridges. This is not the Build Back Better bill. And remember, I've been telling you guys for a couple of months now, it's going to pass. Well, Biden can't do anything. Oh, he can't bring people together. 30 Republicans voted for the infrastructure bill. And now the Republican Party wants to name and shame them, and they're doing so. They're on every channel. Look at all these. Okay, they were white men because, you can tell them Republican because they're white men. Okay, there's a lady right behind me right there. That's Nicole Mateltakis of New York. She voted for it too. But otherwise, that's your Republican Party, America. Because that represents America. And actually, it does. In areas of America, that's what America looks like. We are a melting pot. So anyway, yeah, President Trump today tweeted the names, not tweeted, put out a statement. Remember, like, a month ago, there was going to be an announcement of this new Trump-funded or cooperated Twitter. What happened? The stocks of that company soared the next day because everyone was like, oh, yeah, it was a pump and dump. There's no Trump. They've been talking about this for 3 years. There is no Trump Twitter at this point. And a lot of people made a lot of money, and a lot of idiots lost a lot of money because they pumped and dumped the stock of the company that was actually, it was just a shell corporation behind the company or in front of the company that had the technology to do the Trump Twitter, and it's not a thing. Everything is surrounded by incompetence with this guy.
Wouldn't have voted for it, which this thing wouldn't have passed, because you're right. There is simply no accountability for how we spend taxpayer dollars in the Biden administration. I mean,
okay, but roads and bridges, good. Yeah, Jim? By the way, they're talking about stripping these Republicans of their committee assignments, and this is not all of them. I don't know why they picked out these particular Republicans. They start with Jeff Van Drew. He was a Democrat until 10 minutes ago. But okay. Jeff Van Drew's up in that corner right there. If you're watching on your phone, it's too small to read. He's a Democrat from New York that switched parties, and Trump had him in the Oval Office and was like, oh, so happy with him. So happy that one Democrat switched over to the Republican Party. All right. Did it make a difference? Did it shift the balance of power? It did not. Hold on a second, kids. I just changed the desk in here. And I told the judges to show up this morning, but so far I don't know that the feed is working, so they can't. They're in another room in the compound. I should say another part of the compound, because I don't think compounds have rooms. I think they just have parts. That's how big compounds are. Let's go back to this. I thought only 13 voted for it in the House. 30. There's 30 altogether. Yeah, 17 in the Senate, 13 in the House. Is that all 13? You're absolutely right. Thank you. That's what I'm saying is, this is just the House members. There's 17 senators who also voted for it. And there's some discussion of there being 19 senators, and nobody seems to know how many senators actually voted for it. It's weird.
They're still paying people not to build the...
Yeah, 19 in the Senate, but also 17 in the Senate, which I haven't figured out either.
Wall. They're getting ready to pay people.
So 32 is the actual count that I can come up with, but I keep seeing in the press 17 senators. So I'm not really sure what the real number is, and I don't care enough to go and find it. The bottom line is it's bipartisan.
People who illegally came into our country, $450,000.
Yeah, the people illegally coming into the country will not be getting $450,000. But if they do, yeah, because you kidnapped their children. We still have, at last count that I saw, 300 orphans that the United States created, and they can't find their families. I mean, at least if you're going to kidnap children, write it down somewhere. Keep a running tab on which children you kidnapped and to whom they belong. Wow.
And then, of course, we have all the reckless spending that's led to...
That's a good question, Marcy. Were they counting Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin as Republican votes? I don't know. And that's why I haven't figured out why there's 19 senators and 17 senators. I don't know.
To the record inflation. I tell people the real consequences are for American families. You want to buy a home, it's going to cost more. You want to rent an apartment, it's going to cost more. To put food on the table, it costs more. To put
bacon specifically. I keep seeing news articles about the staples being so much more expensive. Bacon. Bacon is a staple in America. Also, America has an obesity problem. I wonder if the two have any relation to each other.
Put gas in your car, it costs more. Thanksgiving.
Liberty says, were they upset when Trump rose the... All right, we're just going to go with what she said. Were they this upset when Trump rose the debt by $7 trillion in 4 years? They were not. They were not upset about the debt at all under Trump.
Turkey and Christmas presents are going to cost...
Bacon is a staple in Iowa. And the obesity rate of Iowa?
More.
Again, no connection whatsoever. I'm doing a mental reach around.
of their crazy economic plan. Their economic plan is really, lock down the economy, spend like crazy.
Are we locking down the economy right now? Is that what we're doing? Is having vaccine mandates locking down the economy? I don't know that there's anything that I'm stopped from doing. I'm in liberal California. I'm trying to think, which is hard for me. You're welcome. I don't think anything's locked down anymore. I don't know. If you're in California or in your state, Todd Stubler, you're in California. Is anything locked down anymore? Is there anything we're not allowed to do? Todd Stubler says, I saw a mental reach around at the Coachella once. Oh, they were fantastic. Honestly, though, they've gone too commercial. I like their old stuff. They used to be a Strokes cover band. Most people don't know that about the reach arounds.
People not to work. And the bill that's coming next week, the so-called Build Back Better, they're getting ready to raise your taxes. So for all the people who have been working...
All the people with $400,000 of income every year who've made that money because of the system that America has built, all those people should not be paying for America.
You're now going to get a tax increase. Such a deal from the Democrats, but it's just craziness.
What?
Down the economy, spend like crazy, pay people not to work, and the bill that's coming next...
Nobody's getting paid not to work anymore. That's all over. There is a great resignation. 4.4 million Americans left their job in last month. So Kevin from the Sharks, Kevin, I'm going to say McAllister, which was the name of the character in Home Alone, but that's not him. Kevin from, I can't even remember the name of this show now. Loan Sharks. That's not the name of the show. The show on CNBC where you go and you present your business idea and they give you money for your business idea. Come on. I'm so bad with names. Someone is going to come in here and they're going to know the name of Kevin. He was on Bill Maher last night. What is the Shark Tank? Thank you. You see, the trouble is I'm afraid of sharks. That's my one biggest fear. Sharks and razor blades, but I can deal with razor blades. I just don't want to slide down a banister made from razor blades. Might have something to do with my childhood. But sharks I am most afeared of. It's not Kevin Sorbo, but it's Kevin on Shark Tanks, Mr. Wonderful. Anyway, he was on Bill Maher last night, and what he was talking about is originally they thought 15% of the employees, he has 30 different companies, 15% of their employees they anticipated will not want to go back to the office. Turns out it's closer to 55%. The majority of people who've been working from home and able to do their jobs are just fine with being at home and would rather quit and go get another job that allows them to be at home than have to commute to an office somewhere. I was having discussions with a CEO yesterday, and she had said, well, yeah, we shut down for COVID, and it's going to save us a ton of money. Because what we do from home is great. We don't have to be in the office, and there's a whole bunch of workers in America who don't have to be in an office. They do what they can from home. I don't have a home, but I'm hoping someday for a compound. And I will quit my job rather than having to leave the compound. Kevin O'Leary, thank you very much, Marcy. That is correct. Judges? Still no judges. Sorry, folks. I don't know. The judges might actually be out there in their area. I don't know. I can't see them from here.
The so-called Build Back Better, they're getting ready to raise your taxes. So for all the people who have been working, you're now going to get a tax increase.
No. That's unless they make more than $400,000, which is usually passive income, by the way.
Such a deal from the Democrats, but it's just craziness. And why we would have folks go along with that, I don't know, but we'll have to just wait and see.
So all of this wasteful spending, they want to pay $450,000 per head.
No, that's just a made-up figure. Proposal to pay migrants. Okay, so here we go. Here's another graphic. Taxpayer money up in smoke. Proposal to pay migrants $450,000 per head separated at the border. Let's just say that's true. Let's just say that's going to happen. There's going to be $450,000 per head separated at the border. Hey, how about we don't separate kids at the border? How about we don't kidnap children? How about that? We're having to take responsibility for something that our country did, specifically the Trump information. But let's not mention Trump at all. Let's talk about the people taking responsibility. How dare they? 80 billion in U.S. weaponry abandoned in Afghanistan. No, much of it was disabled. Who gave them that 80 billion? Trump. Who negotiated a peace settlement, in other words, surrender settlement, with the Taliban? Trump. 100 million unused unused border wall materials in Texas. Okay, because the border wall is ineffective. We know that. If the border wall was effective, there's about 500 miles of it on a 2,000-mile border. If the border wall was effective, we wouldn't have people coming across the border. But even where there is a border wall, people can just climb over it with their hands or with a ladder or, God forbid, a rope. You know who came up with the rope idea? Trump.
To people who broke the law, look at this graphic we have of all of our taxpayer money going up in smoke. We know that the DOJ is considering paying $1 million a family for these illegals who broke the law by breaching the border. There's 80 billion plus in weaponry left abandoned in Afghanistan. The Taliban had a parade.
At the time, it was just a civil infraction, by the way.
Showing it off this week. There's $100 million in unused border wall materials in Texas. They're privately flying jets into private airports to drop people at, I think it's red states, and now...
No, all over the place. There was a video of that happening at Teterboro. They were all upset about it happening in Teterboro. What they failed to mention in the late night shows, but in regular daytime Fox, they said there was a chartered plane that took people deep into Mexico, dropped them off. This is what they're doing now, because what happens is they're being expelled immediately. They get to the border. No, you don't have an asylum claim. You're gone. Back into Mexico. Go on. And they drive them across the border. They drop them off. Those same people keep trying to get back in. All of those figures you see about all these millions of people coming into the country. No, the same people trying to get in over and over again, 33% of the time, roughly. Depends on the month. So what the Biden administration now is doing, okay, you're going to come across the border. We're going to put you in an airplane. We're going to fly you deep into Mexico. We're going to drop you off there. So it's a lot harder to get back into the country. Then that same plane goes to Florida, drops some people off. The same plane goes to New York, to Teterboro, drops some people off there. Teterboro's a private airplane just outside New York City. Airport, rather. What's called an FOB. Or fresh off the boat is what that also stands for. But the migrants aren't coming across in boats. They can walk across the border. You know why? Because it's a land border. Anyway, but this is what it always happens with asylum claims. You don't depend on one city of 5,000 people in Texas to take care of all the asylum claims. There are asylum people with valid asylum claims or invalid asylum claims near you if you live in America. They are spread out to spread the burden across the country, and then if those asylum claims are recognized, they contribute to the local economy. Once you have an asylum claim, you're allowed to work, and right now we're over 10 million workers short because part of the reason 4.4 million Americans quit their jobs last month. And if you quit your job, you don't get any of that sweet, sweet unemployment money that doesn't exist anymore.
They're pursuing this spending package where they're going to force all of us to pay for all of these sky-high ideas.
Okay, so Americans are going to pay for American infrastructure? All right. American corporations, people who make more than $400,000. Okay, good. You know what? Maybe we should pay for things that we spend. Hannity's whole thing is about the dossier being something that Hillary Clinton bought and paid for. Because his guy, Trump, buys things, never actually pays for them. But as a country, we have to stop doing that.
Yeah.
Libby says, migrants on the border fleeing Central American violence are not illegals. As Trump fans don't much care for Jesus' actual thoughts on how to treat marginalized strangers among us. So that's true. A lot of that is true.
And don't forget, they gave Andy McCabe, Cash was just on with you, they gave Andy McCabe $1.8 million, a guy who lied.
His money.
Lied to the FBI, lied to the Inspector General multiple times. The same DOJ who's getting ready to give $450,000 per person who illegally came into our country gave Andy McCabe that money after he lied.
because he was fired for political reasons and denied his pension because Trump did that, and Trump was wrong. And giving him the 1.5 that is money that he's earned, by the way. This is his pension over time. And he could die sooner. And his wife could die. I mean, I'm not wishing death on Brian McCabe, obviously. But then it's not 1.5 million. But yes, when you fire someone illegally, if Jim got fired illegally, he should get his pension too. By the way, the Republicans are trying to force Jim Jordan out of office. He has a very gerrymandered district in Ohio. I'll show it to you. This is, hold on. I can pull it up here. Oh, I'll just pull it up right here. Give me a second. No, I'm not going to pull it up there. I lied. Jim Jordan District. Jim Jordan, let me show you. Okay, here it is, right here. This is one of the Ohio's most gerrymandered congressional district. Hold on. Here it is. Here's a map. I'm going to bring it over. Okay, let me make this big. This is from a tweet. There we go. This is Jim Jordan's district. Okay, now this is what gerrymandering is. You draw the lines of a district to try and give yourself a majority within that district. Now, you also have to have, this is kind of cool. This is why Jim Jordan's district is probably the most gerrymandered. You have to have a certain number of people in order to make the district valid. Okay? Let's zoom in here, because I think this is wonderful. Excellent. You see this little nubbin out here? Like, that's weird. You have a case. Most of it is straight lining back and forth. And then you've got this little, like, this is a seahorse in my head. You have this little tiny nubbin that sticks out right here. That little nubbin is a prison. There are people there, but because they're felons, they cannot vote. So in order to pack Jim Jordan's district with enough people to make it a valid congressional district, they added the little nubbin of a prison there. The people can't vote there, but they do count as human beings, and so Jim is able to represent the prerequisite number of people required to make a congressional district. And that is what gerrymandering is. Rigging the system so that your guy can win. However, Republicans in Ohio are now talking about changing the district so that Jim can't win. That would be beautiful. And then they'll make other districts other places. And the Democrats will get, if it's in a Republican state, the Democrats will have fewer people. They'll pack in the Democrats. So if there's like around Columbus, which has a large African-American population, Cleveland, they'll pack people in those districts with just enough people so that they give the Democrats that district, but then the surrounding areas, they'll make these huge, weird seahorse-looking things, and the Republicans will have more districts, even though it might be a 50-50 split in the state itself. You end up with 70% Republican districts, and that way they win the House. Let's go back to Jim.
To the Justice Department. I mean, this is the Merrick Garland Justice Department. So, yeah, Americans are fed up with this, rightly so. And that's why today there's an ABC poll out that says Joe Biden has a 41% approval. ABC poll. Washington Post poll.
Well, that's awesome. He was down. I've seen him as low as 35% for, what was it, 41, 43, whatever he said. Fantastic. That's good news.
41% approval rating, because the American people get how wrong they've been. This administration's been on every single policy issue.
Well, look, obviously parents are
Jim Jordan spreading the good news about Joe Biden.
Taking control, and you are showing serious leadership in this parent situation. You sent 2 letters. I want to ask.
Oh, yeah. So the reason I knew he was going to be on this morning is because the House Judiciary Committee tweeted, breaking news, Jim Jordan's going to be on Maria Bartiromo, and he's going to talk about school issue things, education.
Ask you about schools being ended up being the issue in Virginia. They almost lost New Jersey as well. You would think that they used that as a wake-up call. Tell us about your investigation into the Department of Justice and the White House for sicking the FBI on soccer moms.
His investigation. That'd be like my investigation. I looked it up on the internet. I watched some television. It's an investigation.
Yeah, well, they definitely did. They treated parents as they're treating parents as domestic terrorists, just like that initial.
They're not. That's absolutely 100% false. People who make threats were called by one school board member domestic terrorists, not people who are raising their voices at school board meetings, which is allowed.
Letter said, this week we sent a letter asking Chip Slavin and Viola Garcia, the two individuals at the National School Board Association who sent the original letter on September 29th that prompted this whole thing. And what did we learn this week as well? We learned that the School Board Association was working with the White House beforehand, even before.
Right. That they're the school boards of America. For them to be involved with the executive branch is completely normal. That's how it works.
Before this, so they were coordinating on this letter that then became the basis for Attorney General Garland's memorandum, where he said he's going to set up a snitch line on parents and going to investigate moms and dads who are simply showing up at school board meetings.
No, that's a lie. Nobody's investigated for simply showing up at a school board meeting. That is complete and utter fabrication, Jim. Shame on you.
Saying we don't want this racist, hate America curriculum taught to our kids. So we hope.
By the way, the CRT that they're talking about, the critical race theory, is not being taught to children.
That these individuals will come in for a transcribed interview. If they don't, we're going to call for subpoenas.
Yeah, I mean, all of this as they...
Why are you bothering these private citizens? Why not just have somebody from the Justice Department come in? Merrick Garland could come in and explain that he's absolutely wrong. There's nothing... Jim is wrong on this. This doesn't say that people are not allowed to speak. In fact, the letter says the exact opposite. I'll pull it up because this is just ridiculous. Hold on. DOJ memorandum... school board. The memorandum specifically states that people are allowed to exercise their freedom of speech. Citing, I'm looking for the memorandum itself. Give me a second here. Here it is, memorandum, and I'll pull it over. And I mean, it's. I understand that a lot of these Trumpers have serious comprehension issues. I don't understand something like this, because right in here, while spirited debate about policy matters is protected under our Constitution. First Amendment. You're allowed to have spirited debate. You're allowed to show up at these school board meetings and yell at people. That's protected. When you go over the line, that protection does not extend to threats of violence or efforts to intimidate individuals based on their views. Does not extend. But spirited debate about the policy matters is protected under the Constitution. That's what it says. There's no ambiguity there. If it had said, for example, protection does not extend to threats of violence or efforts to intimidate people, without the whole, hey, the Constitution protects your right to spirited debate, then there would be some confusion. This is a very well-crafted memorandum. There is no hope for these idiots.
Nor serious crime and perjury in the Russia hoax and drive forward trying to take down Trump associates. Real quick on your former House colleague, White House Chief.
Chris Wilson says maybe Jim will end up in that prison. He'd be part of his own district. Then he couldn't vote for himself. But the irony of that is he could still be a congressperson.
Staff, former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, potentially facing criminal contempt of Congress?
Yeah, this is so ridiculous. Mark Meadows didn't do one thing wrong. He's a good man who served our country, was the best chief of staff you could ever have.
Well, if he didn't do one thing wrong, he did dozens of things wrong. But if he didn't, then he should go in as a witness and testify before Congress, because Congress has the power to do that. Jim, I mean, you remember Benghazi, don't you, Jim?
The idea that they're going to do this...
No, Mark Meadows has not been charged with anything. They just want the information because someone tried to overthrow the government. and Mark Meadows was chief of staff during that time. So, yeah, they would like to know what he knows so that they can put together a fuller investigation and we can come to some answers.
Talk about having a chilling impact on the top advisor to the President of the United States. Going forward, what this means, this is frightening where they want to go, but this is...
I'm not frightened by this at all.
This is where the Democrats are, and they're focused so much...
How dare the Democrats think that someone in a position of power in the government, which has been elected by the people, bear any sort of responsibility to the people?
Much on this January 6th commission, because, Maria, what else are they going to talk about? I mean, they're going to talk about inflation. They're going to talk about the chaos on our border.
I'll talk about inflation. I'll talk about the border. We just spent a bunch of time talking about bacon and the border.
They're going to talk about the price of energy, that we went from energy independence to now the President of the United States.
We were not energy independent, but we are working towards that with renewables.
States begging OPEC to increase production for... So they got nothing else to...
I didn't see any begging.
Talk about, and now they are going 200...
Trump dealt with OPEC. Remember, he always used to talk about OPEC plus, and then he would explain, that's the countries of OPEC plus others. That's what the plus is for. Oh, thank you. Again, Trump was America's teacher.
100-year precedent saying that the top advisor to the president is going to have to come in and testify. This is...
Yeah. Yes, that's always been the case. You don't remember Watergate, where the top advisors from the president to the president, including his legal staff, had to go in and present evidence in front of Congress? Yeah, that's how Congress works. This is called oversight. This is called balance of power. That's how this country was designed, Jim. Well, at least he's not in any sort of position within the government, so we don't have to worry about what Jim has mistakenly understood in his head. All right, kids, that's it for now. I got to put together some auditions, and it's a busy day. I'm still packing things into a storeroom. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. We'll be back later. Probably not today. I don't know. I got to fill that storeroom up. This is how things look here still. Yeah, see, there's a mirror over that side. Still boxes everywhere in this place. And the good people who actually are the owners of this compound, they want to start showing this house. They're trying to sell it. So I gotta get to that. I'd love to spend more time with you folks. Plus, I'm losing my voice this morning. Apparently, I was yelling. I got a little excited earlier. I got to reach around from producer Joanna. So not too shabby. If you'd like to support me in some way as well. By the way, if you're in the area, come on by for a reach around. Feel that. Just stroke it, because you can feel the texture. There's a word for that, too, on wallpaper. I know there's a word for it. I don't know what that word is, but there's a word for the texture of the wallpaper. But, yeah, just come by my place and stroke later, and we'll have a good time. So it's been a pleasure, but be good to yourself today, would you? Be good to others, but most importantly, come on by and give me a reach around.